Hello, this video is about a method called Iddesleigh Surprise Royal. It's not a standard method, probably not very well known, so why am I talking about it? Well, I recently rang a court appeal of Iddesleigh Surprise Royal, which is a bit more well known. And Iddesleigh is one of a whole class of methods which have quite a regular structure, consisting of a backwork with a clear regular pattern. Here you can see some points, some more points, and some treble bob work on the back. And there's a front work with a regular but different pattern. So here you've got points, you've got a dodge at the half lead, some more points. And then there are some twiddly bits at the interface between the front work and the back work. And typically these twiddly bits are what happens just before or after passing the treble. So there are many methods like this, and apart from being good methods in their own right on 10, they also provide a way into some of the current standard Maximus methods. For example, Iddesleigh is a kind of 10-bell version of Zanussi Surprise Maximus. Another method of this type on 10 is Remus Surprise Royal. And again, here you can see some quite regular back work. There are some fishtails here, some more fishtails, and then some treble bob work. And then on the front, we've got this regular looking pattern on the front 6, which consists of some plain hunting and a dodge at the half lead. And again, there are these twiddly bits up here underneath the treble when the treble's in 3, 4, and 5, 6. And the back work of Remus is the same as Phobos Surprise Maximus, which is another popular 12-bell method at the moment. So after we'd rung this quarter of Iddesleigh, conversation turned to other methods of this kind. And Iddesleigh was mentioned as an interesting method. And in fact, we arranged to attempt a court appeal of Iddesleigh, which is coming up later this week. So what I want to talk about in this video is not just Iddesleigh itself, but some tips about how to analyze methods of that kind in order to make them as easy to learn and ring as possible. So here is Iddesleigh, and again you can see a similar general structure. The front work looks particularly regular. We've got hunting on the front 6. In fact, this is wrong hunting, backward hunting on the front 6. We'll come back to the front work a bit later. The back work looks like Bristol back work. You're hunting to a point, reverse hunting away from the point. There are some dodges here. There's a fishtail here. And in fact, here's Bristol. And we can see that the back work of Iddesleigh is exactly the same as the back work of Bristol. The two methods are the same above the treble. So I've shaded in light green here, that region, and you can see that the pattern is exactly the same in those two areas. So if we're thoroughly familiar with Bristol, then we've already got a head start on learning Iddesleigh because half the work of the method is exactly the same. And what I'm going to say in this video really does assume that you are thoroughly familiar with Bristol. If you're not familiar with Bristol, that doesn't mean you can't learn and ring Iddesleigh. It just means you'll have to tackle it as a completely new method, and that will take more work than the way I'm going to describe based on your knowledge of Bristol. So then we've got the front work. Iddesleigh has this regular pattern, as I said, with wrong hunting. Bristol has the Bristol front work where you wrong hunt to a point, forward hunt across the half lead, then another point, and then wrong hunt away again. Now, in methods of this kind, you often get a nice regular back work, which might even be the same as a method you already know, a nice regular front work, and then there's this region up here when the treble is not yet all the way to the back. There's this triangular shaped region here, and sometimes this is just a bit fiddly. Sometimes it's very specific to the particular method. There might be some point blows, some fishtails, some dodges, or some places, and you just have to learn it. But in fact, with Iddesleigh, we're in luck because this area up here is exactly the same as the corresponding part of Bristol. So you can see these light purple regions are exactly the same between Iddesleigh and Bristol. So that means we can extend this green region the parts of the two methods that are the same. And in fact, if we now have a closer look at the front work part, we can see that Iddesleigh and Bristol both start with a bit of wrong hunting on the front six. And it's only when you get to this point in Bristol, where in Iddesleigh the bells just continue wrong hunting, it's only when you get to that position that it gets any different. So we can extend this green region even further, and the only part of the front work that's different is when the treble is above 7/8. And in fact, when the treble's in 9/10, there's a little bit of back work here that's below the treble, but that is exactly the same in Iddesleigh and in Bristol. So we've just got this central region of front work and what's happening immediately below the treble at the half lead. These are the only differences. Iddesleigh has ninths at the half lead, and Bristol has plain hunting across the half lead. Now, if we look at the place notations of the two methods, we can see in a different way that the only difference is this part, this section when the treble's in 9/10. So Bristol has X16X when the treble's in 9/10, and Iddesleigh has 16X16. So we're just replacing this right place section with the wrong place section, and then the ninth place at the half lead. Okay, so before we get on to practically learning and ringing the method, let me just say something else about the relationship between the front work and the back work. And this time, let's have a look at the rows. So we've got the first lead written out of Iddesleigh on the left, Bristol on the right. And I've just highlighted a couple of things here. So here we've got in Iddesleigh the fourth making sixths, and it's making sixths here at the beginning of the wrong hunting section. And in Bristol, the fourth there is making sixths as well, because in fact, both methods have been exactly identical up to this point. So the four has arrived at the same position in both methods. In Iddesleigh, it goes hunting off to the front, comes back up again, and it makes sixths, and then it's going to pass the treble in 6/7, and then it enters the back work. In Bristol, of course, there is a bell that's going to make sixths just underneath the treble's path, and then pass the treble in 6/7. But in Bristol, it's not the fourth coming back there, it's a different bell, it's the sixth. And it's interesting to look at what happens when that bell enters the back work. So in Bristol, you've got 8, 9, and 10 working together in the back work at this point, and the sixth goes up to join them. So you've then got 6, 8, 10, 9 in the back work, which is a sequence of bells from the coursing order. 6, 8, 10, 9, it's a coursing sequence. And those four bells keep working together in the back until they eventually end up as 6, 8, 10, 9, all coursing after each other at the lead end. So in Iddesleigh, imagine if we had 8, 10, 9 working together in the back work at the point where the fourth came up to join them. We would then, instead of having 6, 8, 10, 9 at the back, we'd have 4, 8, 10, 9, which is no longer a coursing sequence. And those four bells would then do the back work, which is the same as Bristol back work. And they would arrive in coursing positions at the lead end, but not actually being a coursing set of bells. And we would end up with an irregular lead end. But actually, Iddesleigh has a nice regular lead end. And the way that happens is that if you look at what's happening around the half lead here, in Bristol, the plain hunting at the half lead means that the sixth, which had been in the back work previously, escapes. It goes down onto the front, and the ninth comes up to replace it, and that's how we get 8, 9, 10 in the back work. In Iddesleigh, the sixth doesn't escape from the back work. The eighth is making ninths there, 6 and 10 dodge in 7, 8. And we stay with 6, 8, 10 in the back work. And that's just perfect, given that it's the 4 that's going to come up to join them. And you end up with 4, 6, 8, 10 in the back work in the second half of the lead, which again is a nice coursing sequence, 4, 6, 8, 10. And they arrive at the lead end in a nice coursing sequence, as they should. But of course, the bells, it's not the same bells arriving in the same positions at the next lead end. And if you look at the next the treble's backstroke lead down here, Iddesleigh 1573 and so on, whereas in Bristol it's 1352 and so on. So the place bell orders of the two methods are different. And in fact, we're going to come back to the place bell order in a moment. And ordinarily, the place bell order would be the first thing I look at in a new method. But here I wanted to look at the grid first and then come back to the place bell order. So let's start to see how we can use all this information to actually learn the method in a way that enables us to ring it. And to do that, let's start by looking at seconds place bell in Iddesleigh. So here it is. It starts off like Bristol, heads up towards sixth place. In Bristol, seconds place bell would do 0.6 and go back down again, but in Iddesleigh, it makes sixths and just continues with its wrong hunting. And off it goes, down to the front, up again, and because of where it meets the treble, it does this fifths dodge sixths, which is a familiar piece of work from Bristol Royal, and then it's above the treble and it's doing Bristol work again. After doing the 5, 6, 6 in Bristol, what you do is 0.10ths, and you come down to the sixth place there. So the key to ringing it, the key to knowing what to do when we find ourselves ringing seconds place bell, is how do we know that this first part of seconds place bell, which is familiar from Bristol, joins on to this particular part of Bristol in the second half of the lead? How do we know that second place bell is aiming for this, this fifths dodge sixths instead of what it would be doing if it were just ringing Bristol? And just for comparison, let me put up fourth place bell Bristol here, which is the one that finishes the lead in the same way that second place Iddesleigh is going to. So fourth place Bristol is the one that becomes sixth place bell. It's the one that does this fifth dodge sixths at the end of the lead. So how are we going to know that second place bell Iddesleigh, which starts off like second place bell Bristol, ends up finishing like fourth place bell Bristol? Well, there are various ways you could imagine doing this. So one way you could do it is just to learn it. You just sit down to learn the method. Second place bell does its front work, hunts up to sixths, down to lead, fifth dodge sixths, and then finish like Bristol. Okay, you could do that. But what I'm trying to do here is take advantage of the structure of the methods to reduce the amount of rote learning of the line that we have to do. So another thing we could try to do is to notice that when we pick up the work of Bristol in the second part of the lead, this actually starts, not just where we pass the treble, but all the way back where we would have done the point blow in Bristol. And the point blow in Bristol in the second half of the lead is when the treble is on its hand stroke in ninth place, just after doing 9-10 down. So what you could imagine doing perhaps is ringing Iddesleigh. You get into this wrong hunting part, you're hunting away, and somehow or another you work out when the treble is in that ninth place, when there would have been a point in Bristol. And you could do that by listening to the treble, or you could do it by mentally tracking the position of the treble. And then you could realize that, okay, when the treble was in ninth place there, in Bristol, there would have been a point lead going on. On the second, we're actually leading at hand stroke there. It's not a point blow, it's the second part of a wrong lead. But still, we pick up the work of Bristol as if we had just done a point lead in the second half of the lead. And if we know Bristol thoroughly, we know that the place bell in Bristol that does that is fourth place bell. And so we must be finishing the lead like fourth place bell. That sounds like rather a lot of work because you have to either listen to the treble and be sure that the treble is going to be there to be listened to, or you have to mentally track the treble, which means thinking about another bell besides the one you're ringing. Another thing you can imagine trying to do is just ring the method by treble passing positions, like you do when you learn plain bob. You learn that if you pass the treble in a certain place, it tells you which dodge to do next. And that's fine if the work you're doing on the way to passing the treble is simply plain hunting, as it is in plain bob. But look here in Iddesleigh, we've got to make fifths just before we meet the treble. So we'd have to somehow know, when we're approaching this fifths place, we'd have to know that the treble is coming down in a way that we have to make fifths in order to meet it properly. And so then we're back to having to either listen to or mentally track the position of the treble. And that seems a bit difficult. So the approach I would take instead is based on the play spell order. So here's the play spell order of Iddesleigh. We can already see with the rows for the first lead here that second play spell ends up as sixth play spell. Second play spell goes to sixth play spell. And that's the same play spell order as Cambridge or Yorkshire, which we're quite familiar with. I've written it out here starting with the 10th because that's the convention when it's a 10th place lead end method. 10, 7, 3, 4, 8, 9, 5, 2, 6. That's the play spell order. It's the same as Cambridge. It's the play spell order that you would get if you ring Bristol with a bob. If you think about it, if your second play spell Bristol, if there's a bob at the end of the lead, you don't hunt down to become fourth play spell, you dodge 5, 6 and become sixth play spell. If you were to ring the method that is Bristol but with ninth place at the half lead, this is a method, it's called Parkway Surprise Royal, which I think is a kind of railway joke because Bristol Parkway is the other railway station in Bristol besides Temple Meads. Anyway, Parkway Surprise Royal also has the same play spell order as Cambridge, and it's because the ninth place at the half lead makes all the bells dodge, it sets them back a bit, and so they don't get quite as far as they would have done in Bristol by the time the lead end comes around. And so the way I would think of second place spell Iddesleigh and where it's going to end up is that I know it starts like Bristol, so I'm quite happily ringing away. I'm quite happy with this wrong hunting. And meanwhile, I'm thinking, I know I've got to become sixth place spell. How would I become sixth place spell in Bristol? Well, that would be the end of fourth place spell, and therefore I must be aiming to dodge for the treble in 5, 6. So I must be aiming for this fifth dodge sixth. And that's how I would think about it. So it all comes from the play spell order. So let's work that through for the other play spells of Iddesleigh, and we'll just go in order mostly. So here's third play spell. Starts off like Bristol, all the way to the dodge and lead. Then we're just wrong hunting, so it's up to sixths, back to the front again. And now we're thinking, okay, we have to become fourth play spell. How do we become fourth play spell in Bristol? Well, it's by coming down from a point eighths. And it's actually, you must come down from point eighths, which occurs after passing the treble in 4, 5. And because the Bristol work extends so far back from the lead end in Iddesleigh, we get this whole 3, 4, fourths, fifths to pass the treble, then point eighths and down to fourth play spell. So that's how third play spell finishes. Fourth play spell has to become eighth play spell. How do we become eighth play spell in Bristol? Well, you're hunting down from a Stedman at the back. It's the end of sixth play spell in Bristol. You get to it by doing sixths, past the treble sevenths, and then 7, 8. So here we've got the beginning of fourth play spell Bristol, then we're just hunting away and working out that the way we finish this wrong hunting section is by making sixths and then passing the treble. Fifth play spell has to become second play spell. How do you become second play spell Bristol? Well, by doing this 3, 4 treble bobbing maneuver. And again, the work extends all the way back up to the wrong lead or the wrong dodge in 1, 2. I'm going to skip sixth play spell for a reason I'll explain in a moment. Here's seventh play spell. Of course, it's the reverse of second play spell, which we've seen before. But seventh play spell Iddesleigh must become third play spell. How do we become third play spell in Bristol? Well, by doing this Bristol front work and dodging with the treble and hunting out. So seventh play spell, of course, we start like Bristol, we come down, sixths, dodge with the treble, fifths, then we're into the wrong hunting. Meanwhile, we're working out the way we finish the wrong hunting is by doing the characteristic Bristol front work on the way to becoming third play spell. And ninth play spell, again, we've seen its reverse already. We start off like Bristol, we pass the treble in 6, 7, we go into the wrong hunting, and we know we have to become fifth play spell at the end. How do you become fifth play spell in Bristol? Well, by doing fishtail on the front, passing the treble, and so on. And again, we've got the wrong dodge in 3-4 here as well, because the Bristol work extends so far back from the next lead end. So now we're nearly finished, so let's come back to 6th place bell, which I skipped before. 6th place bell is completely in the back work, and it's one of the ones that is directly affected by the 9th place of the half lead. So we start off like Bristol, 7/5, dodge, fishtail at the back, pass the treble in 8-9, dodge 7-8, and if we were ringing Bristol, we would then be hunting down at the half lead. But in Iddesleigh, we have to do another dodge in 7-8, and then that joins on to a dodge in 7-8 that we would have been doing in Bristol, then 7ths, and then dodge for the treble. But this little pass the treble, triple dodge, 7ths, dodge for the treble, this is a structure that comes up in many, many methods, and it's recognizable. So rather than trying to think specifically dodge, ooh, then we've got to dodge at the half lead, ooh, then we're picking up another dodge in 7-8, it's easiest just to think of this as a little chunk of line that you just remember. After doing 7-8 with a treble, you finish like Bristol, which takes you up to 10th place bell at the end. 8th place bell is the pivot bell, symmetrical one. You do this dodge lie, fishtail lie, dodge the treble, 9ths immediately under the treble, and then reverse the whole thing, becoming 9th place bell. And 10th place bell is the third one, which is totally in the back work. It's the reverse of 6th place bell. And again, we're just going to recognize that after this 7-8 with a treble, we're into this extended triple dodge across the half lead, past the treble again on the way up, do a fishtail, finish like Bristol, to become 7th place bell. So the key points here were to start off by looking at which parts of the grid are familiar. In this case, the part of the grid that's exactly the same as Bristol. What is the pattern in the new part of the grid? In this case, it's wrong hunting on the front 6. How are we going to work out how to join these two kinds of pattern together? Well, by using the place bell order, so that we always know where we're aiming for, and that will tell us how to get there. And that's all.